So taking a day trip to a small factory town with a closed down iron works on the border of Poland and East Germany may seem like an odd choice, and I get that. But this city has an incredible history, and if you're into East German socialist architecture and art, this is the place to come. Tom Hanks praised Eisenhu in front of millions of American TV viewers on David Letterman. But why?
And walk around. Well, I'm fascinated by the concept of the city planning they have.
What once arose from nothing quickly grew into the first real planned city in the German Democratic Republic, or as Americans call it, East Germany. More than 50,000 people lived here until the fall of the wall. Since then, the city has shrunk considerably. What remains is the largest landmark in Germany. Eisenhu was the first real planned city in the GDR. It was built in 1950 in the middle of the sand of the Mark Brandenburg, shortly after a decision at the Third Party Congress of the SED, the Socialist Unity Party. The planners were able to create it completely from scratch according to the guidelines of a socialist city. The flats built here were among the most modern in the GDR and were an important lure to attract citizens to the new planned city. In addition, the supply of goods and services to the population in Eisenhu was better than in other areas of the GDR. Everything was organized by the state. There were to be no private companies here. The Iron Works was the only large factory in the GDR where there was no strike during the workers' uprising of June 17, 1953. The Eisenhu Kombinat Ost was the steel producer for the whole GDR. The factory was placed here because the population of the region was suffering from unemployment. In addition, the factory was to be built near the border with Poland because the raw materials came from the USSR and Poland. The GDR needed to own its own steel production. Before the Second World War, production took place almost exclusively in the Ruhr Valley, which was in West Germany. Therefore, the plant was built in no time at all. Only 3 years after the foundation stone was laid, production began in 1953 and grew rapidly. Around 16,000 people worked at the plant at times. With the privatization and downsizing of the ironworks combine, many jobs in the city fell away. Today, Eisenhu, which had a population around 53,000 before reunification, has only about 32,000 inhabitants. Eisenhu has none of the classic sights to offer. There were and are no church steeples in this socialist city. There are hardly any other attractions either. However, the town is a real gold treasure for anyone interested in GDR history and architecture. Housing complexes were built in accordance with the guideline for the construction of socialist cities. With the mass exodus of people from Eisenhu after the closing of the ironworks, many apartment complexes like this are left vacant and rotting. Sculptures and mosaics are everywhere in this city. It was a rule in the GDR that 2% of the expenditures on building projects had to be spent on art on buildings or in public spaces. That is why many works of art can still be found in Eisenhu today. At this point in my wanderings, I had gotten pretty peckish, so I decided to eat some lunch at the restaurant Bierstube. I decided when in Rome, go with the Kronbacher. You can't go wrong with Kronbacher. And I just went old school. I got a schnitzel with an egg on it that was, in my opinion, a bit overcooked, and then some french fries. It was okay, but really overpriced for what it was. I think I paid around 19 euros for this. A little bit expensive, but it was fine. I'm not sure I would actually recommend it eating here. I bet you could find better food elsewhere, but the location was really cool. The Documentation Center for the Everyday Culture of the GDR is a very good museum and housed in an authentic environment. The museum displays over 100,000 objects. Here you can see consumer goods such as the dishwashing detergent Fit, or even some of the much sought-after television sets. There are also changing exhibits on various topics. So the Everyday Life Museum is like right up my alley. I love social history, and I love seeing about how people lived. I'm so fascinated by East Germany, and we didn't know how people lived then, you know, especially me, like growing up in the 80s. We had this image that we were taught through propaganda and through TV shows and all of that about East Germany. And when you see the reality is some of it's better than you expect, and honestly, some of it's probably a little bit worse. So it's a really good museum, and it's definitely worth checking out if you're in Eisenhu. In the Baroque area of typical German towns, the great visual axes of the towns led to the castle. In the ideal socialist city, the main street led to the industrial plant. In Stalinstadt, Linden Alley led to the ironworks, Combine East. The steel factory was the largest iron producer in the GDR and is still the city's defining factory today. The Friedrich Wolf Theater was built in the style of socialist classism. The theater is one of the most striking sights, and its example is a testimony to the Stalin architecture that also existed in the GDR. The theater, built in 1955, the interior of the theater still reflects the interior of the 1950s in the GDR, but has of course been refurbished. The Square of German-Soviet Friendship is today called the Square of Remembrance. Stalinstadt was also considered a city of German-Soviet friendship because of its connection to the Soviet Union. Stalinstadt was named Eisenhutenstadt after the beginning of the Khrushchev thaw and in the course of de-Stalinization in the GDR. But the connection to the Soviet Union remained for a long time. The Square of Remembrance, Platz der Erinnerung, is still a reminder today. The obelisk was erected to commemorate the Red Army soldiers and Soviet prisoners of war who died fighting Nazi Germany. As a war memorial, it is still preserved in its original state today, even though the square around it now bears a less ideological name. The City Hall used to be called the House of Parties and Mass Organizations. It was to be one of the two dominant buildings on Central Square. The other was to be the Town Hall. But the Town Hall was never built, and so the city administration moved into this building. There is some building-related art inside the building. The staircase is decorated with the mosaic Our New Life, Unser Neues Leben, by Walter Womack. I really enjoyed my time in Eisenhutenstadt. If you're looking for a day trip from Berlin that is completely unique to anything else around here, check out Eisenhutenstadt. And if you're really into the art and architecture of the German Democratic Republic, you can't miss Eisenhutenstadt. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done so. And leave me a comment. Have you ever been to Eisenhutenstadt? Would you consider going? Let me know. Until next time guys, I'll see you later.